Hey, fourth graders. So today we're going to be looking at some different reference materials that you can use when you are reading text, specifically informational text. Informational text tends to contain a lot of content-specific vocabulary, meaning if you're reading a book about space, for example, there will be lots of vocabulary words included that are specific to space that you might not see in regular text, okay? So, for example, if you're reading about space, you're going to hear a lot about asteroids and comets and black holes and things like that. And you may not hear about those if you're reading a text about plants, right? You probably wouldn't. Or if you're reading a story, unless it happens to be a story that's happening in space. So it's really helpful to have reference materials. Now, a lot of nonfiction books have a really awesome reference material at the end. So for example, here we have everything space, okay? And if I flip back to the back, this has a glossary. This one happens to be an interactive glossary, which makes it even fancier. But a glossary is simply a list of content-specific vocabulary that you would find throughout the text, and it gives you the definition of those words. This book right here, Understanding Money, is another nonfiction text all about different kinds of money. And again, I flip back to the back and I find a glossary which gives me the definition of the words that are used in the book. And it even says, this glossary explains some of the words used in the book. Words written in italic are explained in other entries. So sometimes like a definition includes another vocabulary word and you're like, well, that didn't help me. So that will kind of give you a little bit of a hint. For example, the very first vocabulary word in this book is asset, and it says any valuable item such as a car, a house, or a bond that can be sold and turned into liquid money. And you may be thinking, what on earth is liquid money? Well, liquid money also happens to be in here. So liquid money is money that is more easily collected and spent. Okay, so like money that's in the bank that's available to you to use with your debit card or cash or something like that that you can spend easily would be liquid money. So you can see how the glossary is very specific. Now the glossary does not contain anything about asteroids. The glossary in this book contains asteroids, but this glossary doesn't contain anything about mortgages. A glossary is very specific to the type of book that it's in. Okay, so you can't just go find a nonfiction book if you're wanting to know the definition of a word unless that word happens to be a word that would be contained within that nonfiction book. Okay, that's the thing with glossaries. But there is a cool tool that you can use that is going to have the definition for lots of words. And you may have guessed it, it's a dictionary. Okay, I love this particular dictionary because it's illustrated and it's specifically written for kids. So the definitions are kind of kid friendly, but it's a dictionary. And there's dictionaries online. There's dictionaries, all kinds of dictionaries. Webster's dictionary is probably the most famous, okay? But the dictionary contains words and definitions. It also contains word parts. So is it a noun, a pronoun, well, I guess it could be a pronoun, a noun, a verb, an adverb, an adjective. It can contain other ways that you can write the word. So for example, I have the word moss right here, and it also says it could be mosses. So if I wanted to make moss plural, I know how to make it plural now. I don't just add an S to the end. Oh, I have to add an ES. It says in parentheses. That means it's noun. And then it has the definition. A small furry green plant that grows on wet soil or stone. Mosses do not have roots, flowers, or fruit, but reproduce by producing spores. And then I could also say mossy as an adjective, like a mossy branch. And then it says see spore. So if I want to know, well, what is a spore? So now I can go and look back in my dictionary and I go and find the word spore. And Where is the word spore? Oh, it's not on that page because it's alphabetical. That's how you find things in a dictionary or a glossary, by the way. Everything is listed alphabetically. A spore is also a noun, and it is a cell produced by non-flowering plants such as fungi, mosses, and ferns, which develops into a new plant. And there's even a picture here to show us a little bit about that. So a dictionary is another great tool to have on hand or to look up online if you find words that you don't know what they mean, specifically in nonfiction text, but it can be really in any kind of text, okay? Love dictionaries, but glossaries are super helpful if you're reading a book right then and then you just flip back to the glossary and you're like, oh, yep, there's that word. Okay. Another tool that you'll find in nonfiction books specifically is an index. An index is going to help you to find, it's always right at the very end, also listed alphabetically, and it's going to help you to find different topics that are contained within that text. So if I'm wanting to learn about asteroids and I go pick up this Everything Space book, I'm going to look in here for asteroids. It says that asteroids are, and it tells me what pages they're listed on. So it doesn't tell me what an asteroid is, but it tells me the pages where I can find asteroids. There's asteroids on pages 12, 13, 25 is in bold, so that's probably the best page to go to. So I'm going to flip to page 25 and check it out. There's a picture of an asteroid. It talks all about asteroids. All right, but if I look on the other pages, it might just have the word asteroids on there. So that's why I always like to go with the bold one first, because that's probably your best bet. But an index helps you as well. And then another tool that I don't happen to have on hand, but another tool that can be helpful when you're writing, I use this a lot when I'm writing, is a thesaurus. A thesaurus doesn't really give you the definition of a word, but it does tell you synonyms or words that are similar and antonyms or words that mean the opposite. So it can help you to figure out what a word means if you're like, oh, well, if I say gigantic and I don't know what the word gigantic means, but then I look up in the thesaurus and it says huge. Well, I know what the word huge means. So huge and gigantic mean the same thing. They're synonyms. So gigantic must mean huge, right? And if it says minuscule or tiny for antonyms, then I know, okay, those are opposite of huge or gigantic. So a thesaurus can be helpful as well. It's probably a tool that you're not going to use as much. The reason that I use a thesaurus a lot is when I'm writing, if I'm trying to come up with better vocabulary words, or I don't want to keep saying something is nice or pretty or whatever. I want to use more interesting words. I'll use a thesaurus sometimes to help me come up with more interesting words. Okay, so again, glossaries and dictionaries are great tools because they help you to know the meaning of unknown words. A glossary is going to be specific to the text that it's in. A dictionary, it goes with for any kind of text that has a whole bunch of different words in it. Some dictionaries, like my dictionary, also have illustrations to help you out. They also tell you parts of speech. They can tell you how to make it an adverb or an adjective, or how to make it plural or anything like that. Past tense for verbs. So that's a really helpful thing with dictionaries. Like I said, also index helps you to find information in a text, and then a thesaurus can help you to know synonyms and antonyms. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.